Hello, I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours, and I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour because you got to pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you.
I feel like it's been forever since I recorded one of these because objectively, it has. We have had a lot going on in New Orleans. It's just none of it has led to interesting stories for Ghost Tour Guide Stories videos. We did have a snowstorm, which was lovely, and we had a terrorism attack, which was not. And then we had the Super Bowl, which I heard people talking beforehand about, like, oh, it's going to be such good for business. And I was sitting there like, I'm not sure it will. And sure enough, I was right. I have never seen that many people in the French Quarter and the tours that dead. And it wasn't just us, like any of the shops that were not on Bourbon Street, any of the bars that were not on Bourbon Street, most of the people were just sitting here like, we made no money. And it makes sense when people spend like $3,000 to go to a football game, they're not usually looking to then turn around and spend money on like history tours and random masks and stuff. But also, there is the fact that after New Year's, they wanted to make sure everything was safe for the Super Bowl, so the quarter was as militarized as I have ever seen in my life. And I know there are a lot of people that were saying, like, oh my god, it made me feel so much safer. But my experience in the quarter, that's not the mood that you could get off the people. Like, walking around, people were tense, people were shoulders up to their ears. Every time one of the, National Guard troops walked by with, like, their military assault rifles out just hanging at their hips, people would tense up and watch them and get stressed. Because even if conceptually you think guns make you safer, all that was a constant reminder that we had a bad incident, and a constant reminder that every time you're in public, there's a chance something bad will happen. So yeah, personally, I do believe there is a line between being safe, being prepared, and being a little too prepared. But I do have a fun story for you. So a couple of days ago, I was doing a tour, and it was a nice one, a nice little quiet tour, and we get to the bar break, and I do my little story before I send people off to get drinks, and right as I tell them time to be back, and people start walking away, I hear screaming behind me. And that is the worst possible time for a fight to break out behind you. Because, like, if you have all your guests together, you can just be like, okay, we're going to a different bar. Sorry, guys, we're moving. If everyone has already dispersed, then there is sort of the removal of responsibility because there's no way I can find all my guests and move them on. So I can just sort of trust them to, take care of themselves for a few minutes. But right at that moment, I still had some guests with me who were looking to me to be like, what do we do? And some guests were in the bar, and I'm sitting here like, we're just going to stand here awkwardly while a fight breaks out. It's fine. And to make it even worse, the fight was breaking out between somebody on the corner there and one of the mule buggy drivers. And what had happened was this random guy had walked directly in front of the mule buggies, like cross the street, like inches in front of a mule. And makes sense. The buggy driver told him not to do that. And yes, he did it in pretty strident terms because the mule was startled. And when a mule is startled, they tend to do things like kick people in the face. And if that happens, then everybody's in trouble because the guy is not going to survive that. Like, getting kicked in the face by a mule is not the kind of thing you get up and continue your vacation from. But also, the driver is going to get in trouble. The mule is probably going to get in trouble. Like, it's a bad deal for everybody. So, of course, Mule Buggy Guy was being like, hey, don't walk in front of a mule. This is an animal. It will respond, like, if it feels threatened. And from what I understand, because I did not see this particular part of the interaction, the guy who actually walked in front of the mule was just like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't thinking about it. I'm sorry. But a random guy who was just sitting there decided it was his business, and he took umbrage with the fact that this mule buggy driver had dared to talk back to somebody. And he got up and started screaming at the buggy driver about, fuck you, you're not allowed to tell me what to do. This is, private streets. You can't tell me not to walk in front of your animal. I'll do what I want with your animal. And was getting, over towards the mule and screaming. And the buggy driver is sitting there screaming back, being like, dude, he will kick you. You will end up in the hospital at best. And people on the sideline are trying to pull angry guy away to be like, dude, you do not want to fight a mule. What are you doing? And it goes on for long enough that, like, everyone was pulling out their phones to be like, do we call the cops? When finally somebody pulled the angry guy far enough away that the mule buggy driver could just, continue on and get away at the full top speed of a mule, which is about, 3 miles per hour. But the important thing is nobody was hurt. Angry guy is probably still angry somewhere, and mule buggy driver has continued, being a mule buggy driver. And nobody got kicked in the face by a mule, which is probably good.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to share your own experiences in the comments below.